Hello, welcome. So here are my 10 top tips for looking professional in a virtual interview. Number 1, lighting. And this is especially important if you're in a different time zone. If you're in Asia and you're applying to a North American clientele, it's very important to have very good lighting. Right now, I'm using a ring light. You see the difference. It's brighter, it's clearer. Even though right now where I am, it's pretty cloudy. This is with a ring light, and this is without a ring light. You see the difference? It's a lot more dark. It doesn't look as bright. So definitely, if you have access to good lighting, use that to your advantage. Number 2 is have a very quiet setting, quiet background. Tell people you're doing an interview. There's nothing more distracting than we're doing an interview and we hear sounds in the back or there's somebody walking behind you. Definitely not a good first impression. So make sure that your environment is very quiet. There's no distractions. Number 3, so if you live in a tropical place and it's very hot and you need a fan, make sure that the fan is not beside you, because usually sometimes we can hear it and we don't know what it is. Especially a North American audience or people who are not, you haven't lived in a tropical country, we usually have AC when it's hot. So don't put it beside you, because not only can we hear it, we can actually see, especially if you have long hair, your hair moving. And it's a bit strange because we're like, what's happening? Is there wind coming inside your house? So put that behind you where we don't see it and we don't really hear it as much. And number 4 is, unless they don't specify it, dress professionally. Like right now, I'm wearing a nice shirt, but if I add a blazer to make it look more professional, it makes a big difference in the interview. Unless you're going to be working for a company that's more artistic and they actually specify, make sure you're dressed professionally so you really stand out. And they're like, I'm going to be proud to be working with this person because they look so professional. And number 5, have a professional background. If you don't have an option, like for me right now, you can see there's a printer behind me, there's a closet door behind me. But if you have access to a professional background, it makes a big difference in the interview. And people will remember you better as well. So now I'm going to change my background to my company background. Do you see how much nicer it is? How more professional I look just by changing the background behind me. So those are the top 5 just to look really professional. Now, the last 5 I'm going to tell you about, it's more how you address the person. So if you don't know how to address the person, ask them, how do you prefer I address you? And the person will let you know. And try to avoid using some of the words like, for example, if you're in the Philippines, I know people usually use the term sir, ma'am, because it's a sign of respect. In North America, we find that very strange. Sir is like a knight, it's like talking to Sir Lancelot. It's very strange for us to hear that. So avoid using those. And like I said, just ask them, how do you prefer I address you? For me, I always tell people, address me by my first name, just call me Charmy. It's so much easier. And number 7, speak slowly and clearly. I know this is not easy, especially when you're still getting used to being interviewed. However, it makes a big difference. And if they ask a question that you don't necessarily know the answer, take a few seconds to really think about the question and having the correct answer, answering it as best as you can. And that's perfectly fine. Having done so many interviews, I appreciate it when the applicant actually takes the time to reflect on a question that might be, a question they've never had. Number 8 is posture. I know, it's not just like sitting straight, which already I find helps a lot. It's also how close you are to the camera. Sometimes I've done interviews and people are so far. It really, it looks very strange and it does look very professional. So sit straight, sit as close to the camera because you're trying to mimic a live in-person interview. Even though it's virtually, you can definitely make it easier for the interviewer and for you as well. It looks more natural when you're close to the camera, as if we're talking really across each other, as if you would in a live interview. And number 9, and this is something that, you can do in the beginning as well. Try to show your hands sometimes. This is actually a sign of, security for the person. Because usually when we don't see the hands, our brain already immediately is wondering what's going on, if there's something hidden. So try to show your hands once in a while. It actually gives a sense of security to the other person. And number 10, which I think is the most important, is that believe and feel that you're the most qualified and best person for this job. I can tell you, when we post a job, we get hundreds of applicants. So there's a lot of applicants to filter through. So if we actually took the time to schedule an interview with you, there was something there that we liked. Either, your qualifications, the way you communicated with us. So you already done something really well. So we already have an idea that you could be a good fit for the company. So believe that, be proud of that, and believe that you're the best person for this job. So there you go. Those are my top 10 tips to look professional in a virtual interview.